So hard these last 6 years and would make a fantastic Member of Parliament for Loughborough. But I wanted to say something else to everyone as well, which is I think we must be frank about this election campaign, which so far has failed to engage so many of our fellow citizens. They hear the politicians shouting the odds at each other, but they're not listening. They want us to address the big questions. They want us to deal with the big issues. They know this country's in a deep hole, and they want us to explain how we're really going to change things to get us out of that deep hole. Now, they will have seen Labour's manifesto launched today, and I can tell you that is not going to change anything. There's nothing new there. There's nothing different there. There's no real change there. And we've got a great opportunity tomorrow when we launch our manifesto to show how we're going to be different and how we would make a difference. So what is it Labour have got wrong and what are we going to get right? Well, the first thing Labour have got, someone said everything they've got wrong. But do you know what? There's just nothing new there. They say they're going to reform the health service, but they've had 13 years. And the number of bureaucrats is going up 5 times faster than the number of nurses. They say they're going to reform education, but think how many bills, how many legislation, how much money we've had spent, and yet still 4 out of 10 children leave primary school unable to read and write. The other thing that's wrong with what Labour are doing is it's all about fear. It's all about frightening people. They're trying to frighten mothers by saying we're against Sure Start, but we back Sure Start and we want to expand it. They're trying to frighten old people by saying that we will take away bus passes or winter fuel payments. Well, I can tell you we're going to keep those things, and Labour have got to stop telling lies about what the Conservative Party would do. And just yesterday we saw, worst of all, they're actually trying to frighten people who are suffering from cancer. That is what happens with a Labour government. It starts with great hopes and great dreams, then there's the great disappointment, and it ends in the desperation of trying to frighten people who are desperately ill. The Prime Minister says he's got a moral compass. He should get it out, have a look at it, and make sure those leaflets are withdrawn. Now, let me tell you what we are going to do differently. Tomorrow, when we launch our manifesto, we're going to explain that real change is not just one bunch of politicians telling everyone what they're going to do. Real change is when the whole country comes together and says that we're all in this together and we're going to achieve change together. I think people have had enough of politicians just reading out their policies and thinking that that is going to bring real change. We're not going to get our economy moving just by the government doing more. We're going to get the economy moving when businesses invest right across our country and take people on. We're not going to solve all our social problems just by government believing it's got all the answers. We're going to solve our social problems when we all recognise the role that we have to play. Who honestly thinks that we will solve crime if we just pass one more law, if we create one new offence? We're going to tackle crime when everyone comes together and says we've got to bring up our children properly. We've got to have discipline in our classrooms. We've got to make sure that shopkeepers aren't selling alcohol to young people. We've all got to recognise our responsibilities. And that's what our manifesto is going to be about, demonstrating we are all in this together. Real change will be when everyone comes together, not just voting for a new government, but taking part in a new government, changing our country together. That is what we're going to be addressing tomorrow. But I want to say one other thing to you this afternoon, my friends, and this is I know from travelling up and down our country just how angry people still are about the expenses scandal and what happened in Parliament. It is simmering just below the surface, a real raw anger. As people say to me, I pay my taxes. I pay my taxes for good services. I do not pay my taxes for the great big gravy train in Westminster. And let me tell you this, that if you elect a Conservative government, you will see more new candidates like Nicky Morgan. You will see a huge turnover in the Conservative Party, and we would be going back to Westminster to make sure it is never, ever the same again. And yes, and you know what? Politicians can talk about how they're going to reform things and change things, and believe me, we are going to shake things up and put power in the hands of people, not politicians. But do you know the first thing we should do is cut the cost of Westminster, cut the cost of Whitehall, so we can turn round to people and say, we know how angry you are about what happened with the expenses scandal, so we're going to make the House of Commons smaller. We're going to cut it by 10%. We're going to cut ministers' pay and freeze it for a whole parliament. We're going to make sure that the whole expenses, pay and pension system is 100% transparent, so what happened can never happen again. Now, you may not have heard this today, but today the 3 Labour MPs who refused even to stand at the dock of the courtroom, those 3 Labour MPs have applied for you, the taxpayer, to fund their defence through legal aid. What a complete outrage. What a complete outrage that people who wouldn't even stand in the dock and answer the charges now expect all of you to pay for their legal defence. Well, I can tell you something. We're having a review of legal aid under a Conservative government. You can't preview and prejudice every part of that review, but I can tell you what, there won't be legal aid available for members of Parliament who are accused of fiddling their expenses. So my friends, we just have a few weeks left in this campaign, a few weeks left to get excellent new members of Parliament like Nicky Morgan elected. Let us recognise just how disappointed and downhearted and disengaged our fellow countrymen are and countrywomen are about the state of politics in our country. Let us give them cause for optimism, cause for hope, cause for change. Let us show how we will be different, not just because we're different politicians with different policies and a different manifesto, but we have a whole different way of governing our country. Not saying that we know best, not saying that all the best ideas are ours, but saying that we will change this country together. Saying to people who want better schools, under a Conservative government, you can set up better schools. Saying to social enterprises, you want to tackle poverty, help us to tackle poverty. Saying to people who want to see our streets better policed, that you can take responsibility, work with the police and make us a safer country. We will be different because we have a different philosophy of government, a different way of doing things. And above all, we will clean up the mess of expenses. We will cut the cost of politics. We will demonstrate to people that Westminster is going to change and this will never, ever happen again. Thank you. Let's work hard. Let's go for it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I've lost you, Nicky.
So a mini manifesto there ahead of the manifesto proper tomorrow. Joey Jones